we're going to spend this particular lecture looking at the concept of innovation, specifically Chinese innovation. Many of the things that we've come to enjoy in our everyday lives actually have their roots in China. So we're going to begin by looking at engineering. What are some massive feats of engineering that were undertaken by the Chinese? The first would be the Grand Canal. And the first part of this Grand Canal was built in the 5th century BC. That's right, 5th century BC. And it was designed to link north and south during the Sui dynasty. Now, its purpose was also to increase trade and communication between these two regions. And you can see that its terminus point is Guangzhou in the south. Now today, because you're kind of seeing the length of it today, the entire canal is about 1,100 miles long. That's the same as if you went from Green Bay, Wisconsin to Denver, Colorado. And it's heavily used in the south. So the fact that this was begun in the 5th century BC and is still around and kicking, that is pretty remarkable. The Great Wall is something that many people would immediately think about when it comes to Chinese engineering. Recall that it began under the Qin dynasty, but under the Ming. All right, the Ming dynasty ruled from 1368 to 1644. The Ming is when it took the form that it has today. And this particular image in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen is the eastern terminus of the Great Wall in the Batai Sea. Now, it was mildly successful, did its part to, get rid of some skirmishers, and no, it cannot be seen from space. Marco Polo didn't actually mention the Great Wall when he traveled to China in the 13th century, but that makes sense because most sections of the wall were in great disrepair. Now, at its peak, there were about 25,000 manned watchtowers. 25,000. And the legend has it that 1 million men died constructing it. Currently, the wall itself, all sections, are a little over 13,000 miles long. 13,000. So we have the Grand Canal, the Great Wall, and of course, the Terracotta Army, constructed for the purpose of guarding the tomb of the Qin Emperor, Qin Shi Huangdi. Now, this tomb was forgotten about until March of 1974, when a farmer was digging a water well in central China, and he stumbled upon the remains. Now, Chinese government workers quickly swooped in, and they took over the efforts. Construction of this army took 700,000 workers. So far, a total of 3 pits have been excavated, showing 8,000 soldiers. No two soldiers look alike. There's 130 chariots with 520 total horses, and there's acrobats, strongmen, and musicians that accompany this army. Now, unfortunately, the architects of the Terracotta Army, of this tomb, were sealed alive to prevent the secrets of the tomb from escaping. And the concubines of Qin Shi Huangdi, who had failed to produce a male heir, were also buried in the tomb. But it still stands as a testament to Chinese manpower and, to a large degree, their engineering efforts. Now, when you look at the wealth of knowledge that China accrued, gunpowder, etc., the Chinese valued their Confucian traditions and wanted to avoid disruptions as much as possible. The Chinese had coal by the 1200s, a mechanical clock 600 years before Europe. They had gunpowder and guns before the Europeans. But eventually they were surpassed in terms of usability by their European counterparts. A classic case study in this underutilization of Chinese innovation would be the voyages of Zheng He and naval exploration. Now, Zheng He had all of the available technological tools at his disposal. He had a magnetic compass. There was grid mapping to understand where he was. From 1405 to 1433, he led a total of 7 voyages. All right, 7 voyages, all commissioned on massive junk ships, like you see here. Now, this particular book is up because there was a rumor, a belief, that perhaps Zheng He reached North America, but the evidence is very sketchy. That is not something we can say for certain. But he did bring back many exotic animals, and he brought other nations into China's tribute system. Now, when his last voyage returned home, a new emperor was in power, and he did not want to worry about going to other places. He only wanted to glorify China. So the ships were allowed to rot in dry dock, and all records were destroyed. Merchants were frowned upon as it was in China. All right, being a merchant, making money, not necessarily seen as a positive. Gentlemen scholars and innovators weren't seen as mixing. So there wasn't much incentive to come up with a new invention or an innovation within China. Now, to illustrate the magnitude and scope of these junk ships, this is the flagship of Zheng He. 400 feet from bow to stern. Or, should say, front to back. The Santa Maria, right here, 85 feet, Columbus's flagship. Zheng He, in his first voyage, had 300 of these ships. A crew of 27,000, 180 physicians, and hundreds of government officials. Pretty much anything needed to run a society. Columbus had 3 ships like this and 90 men. This is the power that China had in the early 1400s. They could outfit so many of these expeditions. And just like with the engineering marvels, it does serve as a testament to what the Chinese were able to accomplish.